Watch this.
Some lawmakers are worried regulations that cities and counties enforced on short-term rentals go too far, even violating property rights. But some Idaho towns argue it's a matter of safety. Maybe you bleed blue, or you prefer silver and gold. It's a rivalry that divides fans, but somehow manages to bring the state together. Just give it a few more years. The Bronco Vandal competition will be back on the field. Well, you likely have at least a few short-term rentals in your neighborhood, and if you live right next to one, you might have more than a few complaints. But are cities and counties going too far in regulating them? A bill moving through the Idaho Legislature would limit those restrictions. And here to tell us more is Justin Core. Justin, what would this bill do?
Well, Hunter, the sponsor of House Bill 583, says it's all about maintaining private property rights and making sure if someone wants to rent out their property on a short-term basis, they can without burdensome regulation. The bill would allow local governments to regulate short-term rentals only when it helps ensure public health and safety, and only when those regulations are the same as the regulations on just a home that someone is living in. Opponents of the bill say that might work, but only if the short-term rental owners are like a family living in the community and not a huge corporation.
The protections in this bill, which are for noise and parking and garbage and things like that, the bill says, well, you have local ordinances. Well, those local ordinances work if you have two long-term residents living next to each other and there's a problem, because they live there and a problem can repeat itself and you can have law enforcement come out and deal with it. But when you have transient people going in there, living, on a short-term basis, every weekend is Groundhog Day.
I have full respect for the rights of private property owners, which means I have respect for the homes that are located next to these short-term rentals. So in essence, we are relying on citizens to be the ones that are enforcing the law, reporting these individuals to their respective cities or counties to ensure that the law is being followed.
But supporters of the bill say some cities and counties have gone so far in regulating these short-term rentals, they've essentially banned them.
Much as I have been a proponent of local control, they've gone too far. And it's time for us to step in and do something about what's been happening and give property owners their rights back.
And I understand the thought of, the neighbors, but I believe, like, we talk about local control a lot here. The localist control is that property owner. They should be the ones in control of their property.
And the bill did pass 54-16, now heads to the Senate. And that's where there's actually another competing short-term rental bill.
There's a lot of similarities. I feel like we just had this conversation yesterday about the bathroom bill, but how is this one different?
Great question, Hunter. And one of the big differences I saw is the Senate bill would allow more regulation on those hedge funds and huge corporations that we just heard about that buy up property, requiring a business license there. That bill still waiting on a full hearing over in the Senate.
I was going to say, this is a conversation that not just Idaho has on the regular. I've seen other states have this consistently because it's challenging. All right, Justin, thank you. Well, Idaho is facing a $555 million budget deficit over the next 5 years. And today, the 32nd legislative day, there's still no clear answer on how to make that deficit up. Abby Wilt joining us in studio now. And Abby, that is why the Democrats hosted a press conference this afternoon about that budget.
That's exactly right, Hunter. The Democrats, they just wrapped up their meeting and they urged that they wanted to be heard, wanted to turn the, quote, mess around, and wanted to show Idahoans that they have a solution. Now, that solution, they say, is taking 1/3 of funds from the state's rainy day funds and using that to balance the budget. The entire rainy day fund is about $1.6 billion, so using 1/3 of that is around $533, almost filling the deficit gap. Rainy day funds are on a one-time use basis, but Democrats say by using those funds, it'd be a slight solution. The party says if they could give themselves grievance space while working on a more permanent solution, and they say that if we don't, we might not find a solution soon, and Idahoans could be in real trouble.
These are real impacts to Idaho families. We also know
Our public schools and our universities are going to suffer. Idahoans are going to lose their health care. Idahoans are going to lose their jobs.
This legislature is failing. It is failing the people. And I hope you hear me today. Everyone that's listening, you deserve better. And I want you to go to the polls and think about the people you're electing, because we don't have to cut everything to the bone. This is America.
The party also said they think a solution is getting rid of the parental choice tax credit program and putting a pause on House Bill 40, which was signed into law by Governor Little last session and was a $253 million tax cut for Idahoans. Now, I have reached out to the Republican Party today to hear what their solutions might be. They have not reached back out to me by the time of this story airing.
Yeah, we've heard from them a little bit here and there, Abby. So $555 million, but that's just this year or over 5 years, just to clarify that.
That is not just this year, it is over the past 5 years.
Okay, yeah, a long term, again, conversation that continues to keep happening this legislative session, a lot of answers that people are searching for as well. One that I have to keep repeating myself by saying we're gonna keep an eye on, right?
For sure.
Yeah, Abby, thank you.
Well, Idaho, we produce a lot of milk. We're the third largest milk producing state in the country.
Through this Magic Valley, dairy is huge. There's probably more dairy cows in an area of similar size than anywhere else in the world, if I'm being honest. So.
We are surrounded by dairy country. Idaho producers, they produce about 700 truckloads of milk every single day, much of it right in the Magic Valley. But before that milk ever hits a grocery store shelf, it goes through multiple inspections, some of them stricter than national standards.
It's every single truck that comes in is that those tests get done on every single one. And so at a facility like this, we get 72 loads every day, so we're doing that test at least 72 times.
Every truck is tested for temperature and antibiotics before it's even allowed to unload. If a load doesn't pass, it's rejected and sent back to the dairy to be dumped, and the truck has to be cleaned. So how often does this actually happen? Well, good news. In Idaho, it's not that often. Joe Barrow, the Quality and Food Safety Director, says he's only turned away 3 trucks, and he's never had to recall any milk.
If you're ever in a recall situation, that usually is something went terribly wrong. There was a mistake made. If, for example, if antibiotic contaminated milk was unloaded into our facility and we found out about it later, then we would have to do a recall on those products. And we would initiate that ourselves, but also the FDA does have the authority to come in and say, you do have to do a recall.
Okay, coming up at 6 in our Inside Ag, we're going to look at that inspection process, what it looks like, and why it is so strict on regulations here in Idaho. your 4-1. The state vet confirmed there is a positive case of anthrax in an Idaho beef herd. The ISDA says the herd is in Cache County, but none of the infected cattle have entered the food supply and there is no threat to food safety. Anthrax can infect animals if they inhale or eat infected plants, soil, or water. There are expected layoffs at Idaho National Laboratory. The group that manages INL says it's reducing staffing levels through an involuntary separation program. In a statement, a laboratory spokesperson says they are adapting INL's workforce to meet the nation's need and support Department of Energy priorities. The lab says it's focused on ensuring they have the right skills to deliver on its mission. The spokesman did not confirm the number of employees who are going to be laid off. And Bogus Basin has canceled the Dottie Clark Championship because of the lack of snow. The program brings hundreds of kids who ski and snowboard from around the state. Now, Bogus says it plans to bring the event back next year when there will be hopefully more snow. And that's the 4-1.
Buster Bronco and Joe Vandal getting it on across the way.
It is a rivalry ingrained across the Gem State, the battle between the Boise State Broncos and the University of Idaho Vandals on the football field. It spans several decades, starting in the 1970s. The Vandals dominated that competition for much of the 1980s. Into the early 90s, that's when the Broncos eventually took over the winning streak in the late 90s until the very last game in Moscow in 2010. An interesting note, the teams tied in 1975. No bragging rights were held that year. While that rivalry has been off the field for more than 15 years, the bitter feelings remain between fans, mostly for old times and usually in good fun. But it's not over. Today, Governor Brad Little announced it's time to bring it back.
Today, with the executive order that I will sign, we are reinstituting this great rivalry and recommissioning Idaho's Governor's Trophy.
Okay, this game won't happen until 2031. So 21 years after it ended, that's actually when Justin Core caught up with fans about what it felt like for that end of the era, which actually has turned out to be an extended hiatus from the field. In this 2-0 dial.
Go Boise State!
It shouldn't go away. Never, never, never. Part of Idaho. Without that, we're going to lose a piece of history.
That part is sad. You know, I enjoyed listening to Mark Schlereth and John Freeze and their memories about the tradition and the streak, and it's good to see that passion and people feeling that way about the game of football.
In Boise, you've got both Vandals alums and Boise State alums, and it's nice to see them go at it verbally.
It's a great rivalry. I watched your channel last night and was watching it on there, and then I've heard from other people that if you walk down the halls, it's bashing BSU. So the rivalry is going good. It's just that they're trying to be politically correct in front of ESPN.
I don't care if we ever play them again.
Well, Vandal guys, no, I'm not quite that irate.
That was my mom.
Actually, I don't think it'll matter. There's enough games with all the other conferences that'll keep things exciting.
Yeah, it's a little sad. I look forward to the game every year. It's a lot of fun. It's a lot of emotion, but it's a good time overall. I enjoy it.
I'm a Boise native. I'm an Idaho native, and in that regard, it's a really sad thing. But I also understand the business side of it for Boise State. I wear Vandal across my chest very proudly. But you know, you don't hate, you celebrate for Boise State.
I can tell by your button here that you're a huge Bronco fan.
That's right. That's right. Go Denver. If for some reason this is the last time we meet, then I think it's going to be a big shame. The younger kids are going to have a hard time finding, a lot of pride. That's part of the pride of being a Vandal is knowing that, there's someone else who thinks they're better or whatever. And, I think the younger classes will be missing out on something special.
The rivalry could get pretty feisty at times, like when BSU's former president gave the Vandals a term that they now carry with pride. In a conversation with the Idaho statesman, Bob Kustra said that he and his wife no longer travel to Moscow for games because, quote, it's a culture that is nasty, inebriated, and civilly doesn't give our fans the respect that any fan should expect when visiting an away team. Ouch. Okay, but nasty and inebriated wasn't taken as an insult as it was meant to be with Vandal fans who now embrace those two words. Okay, we had to bring in a Bronco who did the package and a Vandal. I also have to preface that it's a little unbalanced here because I am a Vandal, so you guys, okay, let's go. This is so exciting, and I can't even control my excitement. I've been talking about it all day. Thoughts?
Well, I talked with Jordan about this months ago on a This Just In. I'm like, never going to happen again. He's like, yes, it is. And he was right. I'll give him that. And as he also said last hour, I gave him a little shoulder check in the newsroom day. He's like, what's that for? It's like rivalry's back.
It's already back.
It's back.
Yeah.
We're doing this again.
I think people care on both sides. And I was going to say this, it's only scheduled as one game in 2031. If Idaho were to somehow win that game, I don't think Boise State's letting them back on the plane until they agree to another matchup or to extend the series or something
a rematch.
right?
That's fair.
So we'll see how this goes.
Right.
Look, I love the chippiness. I love the pettiness.
Yes.
There's been some amazing moments. You talked about one. There was another one. Boise State up big in the fourth quarter. Onside kick. And then the coach of Boise State told everybody on the sideline, helmets on. Because he knew the cups and the beer cans were coming. Speaking of nasty and inebriated.
I mean, it is something that we've embraced. I think, I remember in college, that was a saying that everyone would say. But, okay.
Who do we hate?
Boise State.
Well said.
Not me, though.
Oh, wait, sorry. No, we love Boise State. We are home of the Broncos.
That's right.
I'm trying to
I
stay
wore the blue
balanced here.
shirt.
It's very
I'm
difficult.
balanced right now.
I wore blue, too, today.
But
wow.
you're right. It is funny how that turned into a badge of honor with the nasty and inebriated. It started off as an insult and then turned into like the world's best marketing for the U of I team. It was pretty special.
I'm curious, too. You also mentioned, is this a concern when it comes to recruiting? Because what if the Vandals win?
So I don't think that's going to happen. And that's exactly why they're now doing the rivalry, I think. Before, they didn't want to do it again because Idaho was close enough to them in sort of level of program. There was a chance Idaho wins. And it's, DEFCON 7 for Boise State. Now there's almost zero chance of that happening. Sorry, Vandal fans. But now it's just a great opportunity to fill up the stadium, guaranteed sellout for an FCS game, which you don't always see.
Yeah.
Also, why does he get to wear a tie?
I'm more of a guest on the show here today, so I didn't know the rules. But
we're gonna take care of the rules.
Our Vandal producer was just like rapping to Brave.
Send Justin any emails about my tie, please. My inbox.
We'll take care of this. Winter Olympics are underway in Milan Cortina, and big things are happening. There's the bobsled, curling, snowboarding, cross-country skiing, which, by the way, the U.S. medaled in both snowboarding and cross-country skiing today. Some of those disciplines have been in the Winter Games for more than a century, but snowboarding wasn't an Olympic sport until 1998. And this year, for the first time, the Olympics is debuting ski mountaineering. Well, we also may have a new sport for the IOC. Let me explain. Late last month, we saw crews painting the ice at Indian Creek Plaza. That was the Grove, but it's at Indian Creek Plaza, I promise. There it is. You can see the paint there. It's right there, all laid out. It looks like some sort of court, but the plaza wasn't releasing any information on what it could be. Well, that wasn't until this week. And you betcha, they texted in saying, "Hi, KTVB. Your team was watching us prep our ice pickleball court last week on your Indian Creek Plaza spy cam. They wanted us to reach out when it was done. We're excited about this event. Perfect combo of chaos, sport, and fun." Well, the Plaza announced it's bringing pickleball on ice. They've planned a Valentine's Day tournament. So the big question, are you trying to compete? Sign-ups are first come, first serve for up to 6 teams of 2 players. It's a pickleball regulated court on ice, and it's $25 per entry. Maybe it'll catch on someday.
And hey, they might be playing ice pickleball in shorts on Saturday. Temperatures will be in the 50s here this weekend, but it's all eyes on next week. We have first alert weather conditions starting on Tuesday next week as a very active and wetter stretch of weather is coming our way. We'll see rounds of rain and snow. Some of that snow could reach as far or could fall all the way down to valley floors, cooler temps and brisk winds, and significant mountain snow over the course of several days could lead to some dicey travel. So the setup is that we'll stay quiet for the next couple of days, but by Saturday we see this big dip in the jet stream. We call this a trough developing off to the west, and that trough will just continue to send lobes of atmospheric energy and shots of colder air our way. So by Monday night, President's Day into Tuesday, that's when that stretch of active weather really kicks off, and you can continue to see that trough over the western U.S. will keep us cool and unsettled for several days in a row. Now in the short term, in the higher elevations, west central mountains, maybe over into the central mountains around Sun Valley, on Saturday, we may see a quick little shot of snow, kind of the leading edge of the systems that will start coming in on Monday. But you can see by Sunday, that snow is over and done with. But still higher elevations, we may pick up just a little bit of accumulation ahead of the more significant winter storms that will come through next week. Finally, the winter conditions we've all been waiting for. But that's next week. Today, nothing of the sort. A couple little showers trying to move up from northern Nevada won't amount to much, if anything. I think our only weather worry tonight into tomorrow morning will once again be the possibility of some dense fog that could slow your Friday morning commute. It will be chilly. We'll wake up to temperatures right around 30 for most of the Treasure and Magic Valley. Teens, single digits for McCall and Stanley, upper 20s early on for Haley. We'll land in the mid 30s for McCall tomorrow. We'll see temperatures upper 40s for the lower Treasure Valley, low 50s for the upper valley, reaching for 50 in the Magic Valley tomorrow with a mix of sun and clouds overhead and generally light winds. So really pleasant Friday coming our way. Look at your Valentine's Day, 55 degrees, mostly cloudy skies, not a lot of sunshine, but very comfortable for mid-February. Even warmer on Sunday, but that surge of warmth coming out ahead of the storm system that will roll in late Monday. It will be rain showers across the Treasure Valley. Then we kick off that stretch of first alert weather days as temperatures drop. And in fact, by the mornings, Wednesday and Thursday, it's possible we could see some very light snow on valley floors. All right, 5:23, let's take a quick check of your traffic conditions on this Thursday afternoon. As per usual, the Flying Y heading out of downtown Boise and away from the airport, all those westbound lanes are starting to stack up. You can see that on the far right-hand side of your screen, but really that's the only significant slowdown right now. You'll tap the brakes a bit getting into Nampa from Meridian, but all in all, things are looking pretty smooth on your Thursday.
Comment time. The 208. Go Broncos. I would love to see the Bronco Vandal rivalry renewed. That's Rick from Eagle. Rick, it's already renewed. We're ready, even though it's 5 years. We have to wait for it, but it's okay. 208. I remember the rivalry between ISU and BSU back then. It was usually unlike Thanksgiving when they have the Thanksgiving parade and you can see all of the Vandal and BSU fans walking around downtown. That's a long time ago. That was from Bob. I will say ISU and UI rivalry was pretty intense when I was there. Then we have 5 years before the next rivalry game. Most Broncos still wouldn't have graduated by then. Good point. Go Vandals. And lastly, it's tie cutting day in German culture. We learned this. So maybe we'll talk to Jordan.
Continue with us and watch free now on the KTVB Plus app everywhere you stream.